Hi everyone, today I just want to make a video about the biggest mistakes I made when I quit drinking and maybe the lessons learnt around them as well and how you can use them in your alcohol-free journey, your sober journey. It's an incredible thing when you first quit alcohol. It's uncharted territory for everyone, of course, that's never done it before. I had done the typical dry Januaries and sober Octobers and things like that, but once I got to 4 or 5 weeks, I was pretty much in uncharted territories. And there's some small wins that I want to go through today that are easy, I think, kind of low-hanging fruits, pretty much just mistakes I made. And, we all make mistakes, of course, but it'd be great if people out there who are starting their journey or a way to start their journey, it'd be great if they could take these on board and avoid them because they're easily avoidable and they'll make your life so much easier. And the first one is, I wish I hadn't taken on so much. I think that when I originally quit, I was 33 at the time. I think I just had this really big feeling of what if, what have I missed out on by binge drinking for the last 16, 17 years? I mean, where would the promotions have been? Who would I be? What would have happened if I'd finished that master's degree I'd started? What if I'd learned all those languages I'd planned to learn? And it's quite a common thing. And I know you shouldn't really beat yourself up, but there's a lot of ups and downs when you're on that journey, this alcohol-free journey. It's not a linear path, and you'll have twists and turns and rainy days and sunny days when you're walking that path. But, it's just one of those things that will come up, and you'll start reflecting on the what ifs and who could I have been. And I think as a result of that, probably around 2 months in, once the dust had settled and I was starting to find the new me, I just went all in on everything. And it's such a big mistake to make. I signed up for way too many courses. On top of that, I started learning German. I wanted to learn Spanish as well at the time. I remember starting to take Spanish lessons. I got a tutor once a week. And then I joined the gym and I went an obscene amount of times. And, when I wasn't at the gym, I was sneaking in home workouts. And when I wasn't sneaking in home workouts, I was out walking, tens of thousands of steps, and it was just ridiculous. And even when it came to the diet, everything was 150%. Before you know it, I had MyFitnessPal, calorie counting everything and not having any cheat days. And honestly, just everything I went 150% in, and it's not a good thing to do because you just end up stressing yourself. You end up putting yourself in this situation where you're uncomfortable and you're not enjoying your life. And of course, when you do that, you start maybe thinking to yourself, did I make the right decision here? Am I on the right path? Because I'm not really enjoying this. And with the alcohol, as you know, you start thinking about alcohol as a great thing. I wasn't this stressful when I was drinking. I was so happy when I was drinking. I used to enjoy my weekends when I was drinking. All those thoughts come up and it's all self-inflicted. So I would just tell myself, and I would tell others as well, people listening this, that you don't need to, complete everything in a week. You don't need to conquer the world in a month. Just take your time. It's fine to do one course and then take a few months off and do another. You don't need to learn 100 things at once. If you go to the gym, just go a few times a week. And if you've got the time, maybe just go one more time and that's it. And if you're losing weight or you're wanting to build up, how far you can run or walk or cycle or swim or whatever, so you don't need to be the world champion in a week. It's fine to just take it easy in the beginning, find the right pace, make sure you've got enough time to do what you do and enjoy the new things you're learning, because I certainly did it and I took on way too much. The second thing is not isolating myself so much. And when I moved to Edinburgh, pretty much all my mates were pub mates. And, in hindsight, maybe it's a good thing because it was, easy to say goodbye to them after I stopped drinking and, becoming the so-called boring one. But after the dust had settled, after a few months, and I just didn't enjoy the pub anymore. I didn't enjoy anything with around alcohol, you know, trying to fit in drinking alcohol-free beers and Diet Cokes. I just ended up isolating myself. I ended up just sitting alone too much. And one of the things I genuinely wish I had back then was something that one of my partners has, Zaxee, and they have a sober dating platform, and it's made for sober people and sober curious people. I remember looking back, my alcohol-free status or journey, whatever you want to call it, was so sacred to me. I would have done anything to protect it. Like I mentioned before, I was going all in on everything, and I needed to keep my brain active. I didn't even want to think about alcohol. I was very anti-alcohol. And you know, all that becomes very sacred. And I remember thinking about dating. I thought about it a lot because I was lonely, and who doesn't want to meet somebody? But I knew going on the apps that are out there at the moment and the different platforms, you would end up chatting to somebody and the dreaded, you know, I don't drink alcohol comment. You'd have to come up with that, and it would cause a stir as always. Or why don't you drink? Do you have an issue? You know, that's just the modern world these days. And I was kind of worried as well about, you know, first dates, because it's always at bars, and I didn't want to turn up, and I just didn't want the whole hullabaloo that goes along with not dating a sober person. And if Zaxee had came along, I would have jumped right on it, because I just think it's a brilliant thing. I was dying to meet sober people, go on sober dates. But Zaxee, I never knew it existed. And I joined, and it's super easy to use. You just create a profile, upload your profile pictures, and that's all you need to do. It's a great platform to use. It also has VIP features if you want to take it that one step further. And if you go down to the description and the pinned comment, you'll see more information there, information about a promo code. And honestly, I think Zaxee is an absolute winner. The third thing is I just wish I hadn't tried to stop drinking alone the first 4 to 6 weeks. For some reason, I have no idea why, even though I knew Google existed and YouTube existed, and yeah, I think I'm pretty clued up guy. I just never ever thought about reaching out to maybe sober communities and sober groups, things like that, and not even going on YouTube or Google, which was wild. And the first 4-6 weeks became a struggle, because as you know, and I always mention, you're on this path and you've never been on this path before, maybe the first few weeks, but certainly not after that in my cases, in many cases. You know, you do your sober Octobers and dry Januaries, but there's so many twists and turns. And just, I remember finding Kevin O'Hara on YouTube, and it was the best thing ever. He was doing daily videos just talking about how good things are and like lessons learned, like this video, and he just covered every subject doing daily videos. He was doing a 365 day challenge, a daily video each day. And I loved listening to somebody, even though, you know, he was from Ireland and a bit older than me, and he used to drink a lot more than me. I still resonated with it, and I thought it was great to hear from somebody that was on that same path but just miles ahead of me, and somebody that I could listen to pretty much say, you know what, Bryn, you're on the right path. And I used to find it so motivating as well, just to listen to him talk about how great everything was. I'd listen to the benefits videos on repeat, just talking about better sleep, more energy, better finances, and I used to get a proper buzz from it. And I should have done that in the beginning, and everyone should do that. And if you can, find a sober curious mate. If there's somebody at your work that you kind of know well, speak to them about it. Maybe somebody in your family, even if they're not sober themselves or sober curious, just a motivating person to tell you that you're doing the right thing. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, it's not a linear path. You're not just going, it's not just a smooth A to B. It's ups and downs and twists and turns and good times and bad times. It's just how it is and how life is. But if I had that in the beginning, I'd maybe discovered Kevin O'Hara, I'd maybe reached out to people, I think it would have been such a better journey. The fourth one is I just wish I hadn't beat myself up about my diet. And I made a video about this recently. I just went all in on cheesecakes and Haribo Star Mix, and I think there was squashies as well. Haribo squashies, they're deadly. And go once you go 150% into everything, and I went pure stealth mode. I was like, cutting everything off. I need to get fit. I need to do this. I need to do that. I really beat myself up. And going back to the point I made in the beginning, that's not what you should do, because it should be fun. The weight loss journey should be fun. The working out should be fun. Going to the gym should be fun. Going for a walk at night should be fun, and you should enjoy it. But when you're beating yourself up about everything like I did, and you're wanting to become an elite champion in everything you do, I don't, like I say, I have no real idea why. Maybe it's just my addictive personality. I'm sure somebody will point out in the comments, but that's just what it was. And I end up beating myself up about stuff and calorie counting with MyFitnessPal. And I just wish I'd given myself a bit of a breather and just said, you know what, Bryn, you've been the alcohol. That's the main thing at the moment. You've got a few of these vices. You know what, it's fine. Because like most people, I think I've heard from in videos and comments, it's just a phase. It's just a bad habit in the beginning. And I think it's better in the short time to replace the alcohol with too much coffee, too much Pepsi Max, and a few cheesecakes here and there, and Haribo Star Mix. The fifth one is I wish I just stopped going to the pub and trying to do the whole pub life thing from day one. I spent 2 months trying to fit in, and it's very habitual, of course, and maybe I'm being a bit unfair on myself because, as I mentioned, it was the first time. Obviously I've done day ones before and week twos and week threes, but this is the first time I was doing it with the mentality and the mindset that I'm done. That's me completely finished. And I think I should have just, after a few weeks when I was going to the pub and I was like, this is rubbish. Like I remember it like, I'm just not enjoying this. Standing here on my third alcohol-free beer while everyone's getting drunk. I never enjoyed doing it when I was younger. I would never drive to the nightclub or pubs. I would just not go out, and it was the same now. It just wasn't fun. And I just wish that I just, after a few weeks, said, you know what, I'm done. And that would have been it. But I tried to join in. I tried to join in the fun. And as I mentioned, it's just rubbish when you're not drinking, standing in a room on a Friday night after a week at work, or it's sunny outside on a Sunday. I wanted to be out and about. I wanted to be learning stuff and going to the gym and out for walks, and I should have done that from day one. But anyway, hopefully these mistakes and the lessons learned I went through are a real help to you, because I think, like say, they're not drastic changes you need to make. They're just easy changes for you to follow. And please check out Zaxee as well if you can. Like I say, it's a great sober dating platform. And please like, hype and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.